you understand the root of that feeling, you can respond in a way that moves you forward rather than holding you back.
That makes sense.
Which talks about the power of meditation, and not to empty our minds or anything, but to simply observe those thoughts and feelings without judgment.
So just creating some space between you and those emotions.
Exactly.
So they don't feel so overwhelming.
Yeah, and sometimes we need to move.
Welcome to Witter. Who Has Time to Read? The podcast that brings deep dives for busy minds. Listen to AI hosts Jane and Dane and get ready to unpack the world's most captivating books in just a fraction of the time. Whether commuting, working out, or just squeezing in a quick break, we deliver key insights, thought-provoking themes, and takeaways you can carry into your day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Plus, use our links in the description to purchase this book. Your support helps us bring more engaging book discussions to you. Listen and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Who has time to read? You do, with Witter.
Ever feel like you're your own worst enemy? Like something's holding you back from what you really want? That's the mystery of self-sabotage. And we're going to dive into that today.
Yeah.
With Brianna Wiest's book, The Mountain Is You.
This is a great book. It's a fascinating journey because it really flips the script on what we typically think about when we hear self-sabotage, because we see it as this enemy within,
right?
A sign of self-hatred. But she's suggesting it's actually a coping mechanism.
Okay, so how can, sabotaging ourselves be a way of coping?
Well, you can imagine your subconscious mind as kind of like a bodyguard who's always trying to protect you, even if it means overstepping a little bit.
Right.
And it remembers all your past hurts, your fears, your disappointments.
Yeah.
And it's going to do whatever it takes to prevent you from experiencing that pain again.
So it's like, hey, I know you think you want that promotion, but remember last time, remember all that stress that came with that. Let's just chill here, in the comfort zone. How does that sound?
Exactly. Why don't we just watch some Netflix and order a pizza? It'll be great.
Right. Exactly.
And to really understand how powerful this subconscious protection mechanism can be, Wiest shares a really interesting story about Carl Jung.
Okay.
The famous psychologist.
Yeah.
Now, as a kid, Jung wasn't exactly thriving in school, He fell out of place. And then one day, he takes a tumble and hits his head.
Oh, no.
Now, most kids would dread going back to school after something like that, right?
Yeah.
But Jung had a completely different reaction.
Interesting. So I'm guessing part of him was relieved because it meant he didn't have to face that discomfort?
Exactly. He later admitted to thinking, maybe now I won't have to go back.
Wow.
And not long after that, he started experiencing these fainting spells.
Really?
What he later called a neurosis.
Okay.
And he realized these spells were his subconscious going to extremes to avoid the emotional discomfort of school, even if it meant creating actual physical symptoms. And he called this substitute suffering.
Substitute suffering. So it's literally like trading one problem for another.
Yeah.
Even if it makes no sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how does that relate to someone who's maybe, constantly self-sabotaging their career goals?
Because those unconscious associations, they run deep.
Okay.
So let's say you grew up with a parent who constantly stressed about money. Maybe they even spoke negatively about wealthy people.
Okay.
Now, that early exposure, it can create a subconscious link between money and anxiety.
Okay.
Even if consciously you aspire to be financially successful.
Right. So you might find yourself unconsciously avoiding opportunities for advancement or even sabotaging your finances.
Precisely.
Because deep down, that association with discomfort is just so ingrained.
Exactly. It's like this knee-jerk reaction, right, that happens before you even have time to think about it.
Wow.
And this is why just trying to think positive or work harder often just doesn't cut it.
Right.
We have to address those deeper and often unconscious beliefs that are driving those self-sabotaging behaviors.
So it's not just about willpower. It's about going deeper and understanding those root causes.
Exactly.
So it's not just about our childhood, right? Even when we're aware of these patterns, there's something in us that still wants to cling to those, familiar feelings.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's like we have this internal thermostat for happiness.
Okay.
That's set to a certain level, and psychologist Gay Hendricks calls this our upper limit on happiness.
Okay.
You get comfortable at a certain level of success, of fulfillment, even joy.
Right.
And when we start to exceed that limit, our subconscious, it hits the brakes.
It's like, hold up, this feels a little too good to be true. Let's bring things back down to, a manageable level of chaos here.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I don't know if I can handle this much success and happiness. I got to bring in some drama to balance things out.
Right. Exactly.
And the thing is, we're not even consciously aware it's happening.
Wow.
We just find ourselves procrastinating on that big project, or maybe picking fights with loved ones, or just generally creating drama where there doesn't need to be any.
So those self-sabotaging behaviors that we often label as like laziness or mood swings or just plain bad luck.
Right.
Those are actually cries for help from our subconscious to keep us in those familiar, even if sometimes painful, boundaries.
That's one way to look at it, yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating.
And Wiest points out that perfectionism often masks a fear of failure or judgment.
Okay.
So instead of celebrating progress, we become paralyzed by the need for everything to be flawless.
Yeah.
Which often leads to us not even starting in the first place.
Like done is better than perfect.
Exactly.
But how do we tell the difference between like healthy striving and this self-sabotaging perfectionism?
That's where getting curious about our emotions comes in.
Okay.
When you feel that urge to procrastinate or that voice telling you you're not good enough,
Yeah.
just ask yourself, what am I really afraid of right now?
So it sounds like getting curious about those uncomfortable feelings is a big part of the work. But how do we move from being ruled by those feelings to like actually, doing the things we want to do?
Well, that's where emotional intelligence becomes like a superpower.
Okay.
It's not about ignoring or suppressing those feelings.
Yeah.
It's about learning to understand and work with them.
Okay.
Think of it like this. You wouldn't just ignore a smoke alarm, would you?
Right.
You'd see it as a signal to investigate and take action.
Yeah.
Emotions are kind of similar. They're giving us valuable information
Interesting.
about what's going on beneath the surface.
Okay. So instead of thinking, ugh, not this anxiety again, it's more like, okay, anxiety, what are you trying to tell me? What old fear is being triggered right now?
Yes, exactly. And once you understand the root of that feeling, you can respond in a way that moves you forward rather than holding you back.
That makes sense.
Which talks about the power of meditation, and not to like empty our minds or anything, but to simply observe those thoughts and feelings without judgment.
So just creating some space between you and those emotions.
Exactly.
So they don't feel so overwhelming.
Yeah, and sometimes we need to move those emotions through our bodies.
Okay.
Not just our minds, right? Wiest is a big advocate for physical activity.
Okay.
Whether it's a walk in nature or a dance class or even a good gym session.
Yeah, sweat out the stress.
Exactly.
But let's talk about sustainability.
Okay.
Like, we can have all the aha moments and emotional breakthroughs.
Right.
But how do we make these changes stick long term?
Well, Wiest is a big believer in the power of principles.
Okay.
She says it's not enough to have a vague desire for change.
Right.
We need to establish those guiding principles that align with our goals.
So instead of saying, I want to be more financially responsible, it's, I live below my means no matter what. Like, that's my principle.
Precisely. Principles they provide, that internal compass, that unwavering commitment that helps you navigate all those inevitable challenges that life throws our way.
Yeah, it's like having that North Star.
Yeah.
That keeps you going in the right direction, even when things get tough.
Exactly.
Now, one final tool Wiest suggests, this is so interesting.
Okay.
It's this idea of like connecting with your future self.
Yes. The future self visualization, powerful stuff.
Yeah. Have you ever done that?
I have. It's incredibly effective.
Really? So she suggests taking some time to really imagine meeting the version of yourself who has already overcome these self-sabotaging patterns and achieved those goals.
Yeah, like really try to step into their shoes.
Wow. So close your eyes and actually have a conversation with that future you.
Exactly.
Like, what would you ask them? What advice would they give you?
It's like tapping into your own inner wisdom.
Yeah.
Getting guidance from the part of you that already has the roadmap.
I love that. So we've gone from understanding why we self-sabotage to like recognizing those patterns to now these practical strategies for change.
It's about rewiring those old subconscious programs.
Yeah, and stepping into our full potential.
Exactly. And, those mountains we face, the challenges, the setbacks, the self-created obstacles, those are often the experiences that shape us into the people we're meant to be.
So the next time you find yourself at the foot of a mountain, remember, It's not there to stop you. It's there to call you forward, to help you discover the strength, the resilience, the wisdom you never knew you had.
Love that.
What's one small step you can take today to start climbing?
Thanks for listening to Witter, Who Has Time to Read, produced by One Media. Please support the author by purchasing the book or audiobook using the link in the description. It's a great way to help keep the art of writing alive. And stay in the loop. Subscribe to our newsletter for updates on weekly deep dives. And don't forget to share your thoughts or suggest our next deep dive at witterpodcast@gmail.com.